This is Irontrader, and this is Midday Trading. So we'll take a look at some stocks here. First of all, we'll take a look here at Broadcom. We'll take a look here at Google, AMD, and NVDA. All right, this video is for information purposes only, not a recommendation to buy selling stock commodity ETF. Please like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, here we have Broadcom. Okay, let's just see what's going on here. Okay, so you can see here how we had such a really nice good run up here. Then we're kind of like a double top situation, and now we're kind of like hanging out a little bit, right? So realistically here, what we got is we made this low right there of that 329.06. We're looking here to the bottom of this candle at 324.05. So now we have even almost like a double bottom situation on the bottom. Now you can see how it's trying to run up. Now you can see where it ran up into the 50 and 20 and 8 day today, but it couldn't get through. So realistically, on the upside, you're looking at that 349.05. Your next level is going to be right there at 349.62, and then we have that 355.63. That is your 21-day. You will have to get really above all of that. And then we come over here to the top of that candle, 358.87. We'll come up here. You're looking at 361.89. We just work yourself right on up here. 363.50. We'll come up here to this 368.95, and then we want to look to the left of the chart here, looking at that 374.23, and then we have your retest there at 386. Now again, we get above this here, you're going to head to that 400 mark. Now on the downside here, we really want to watch that the bottom of this candle is that's at that 329.06, and then we have the 100-day sitting right there at that 321 level. Okay, now again, if we lose that, okay, the bottom of this candle right here is at 324.05. Okay, there's your gap, and then we want to look to the top of this candle right here. That's at 308.78. Okay, so we have your gap and we have your fill. This is not filled. Came right on down here, made a little bit lower low, but now that'd be your target there at 308.78 if that 100-day is lost, and then you could venture down to the 200-day. But right now, this is looking still very strong. That's only in case we lose that 100-day, or we lose actually the bottom of that candle right there at that 324.05. Now, we're only sitting here at 45, pretty much in the center. It's not overbought or oversold level. And then we look here, the green is below your red. But again, we just have nice, good sideways action. But we have a really nice, good-looking chart going all the way up here. And now we're kind of holding this thing. So again, a lot of times you get these sell-offs here, tax selling here at the end of the year. Before we started off here today, we were high, and then we got into the red. And then we were high again, green again, and now we're back into the red again. But let's just see how the whole day shakes out. So right now, this is like a trader's market until we can get pretty much here, get a Santa Claus rally going. So again, if you're trading the Broadcom, just watch that 50-day. And that 8 day is going to be very key. But the one to get above is going to be that 21-day. We get above that, and we have nice, good targets. This is your one big target, that 374 and that 386. Okay, let's take a look here now at Google L. All right, here we have the alphabet. Now, this is actually one of my very favorite stocks here. Now, what I did is I have their TV, YouTube TV, and I got to tell you, man, it's really good. Now, they had a little incident there. It wasn't really an incident, but they had a little controversy there with Disney. So you lost a couple stations, but they refunded you $20 just like that, no questions asked. You can cancel anytime, you can delay it, you can pause it, you can do whatever you want. It's a really good setup, and they keep on adding stations and stations and stations. And I think they got a good thing going here, kind of a whole situation. Okay, so right now here, let's just take a look at the chart. Now, one thing about Google here today is Berkshire Hathaway revealed that they took a $4.9 billion stake in Google. Okay, so you can see where we had that big pop up now. Now, the key to this is really whole again is that 292.01. We made as high as 293.95, but we have to get back above that. See how we hit that, and then we came close, then hit it, and now we popped above it. We got to hold it. Okay, so you have to get back and close above that 292.01. If you do, then you can hit to that 300 mark, and then you can venture on up there, 3.25, 3 this, all the way on up there, kind of a situation. So that's exactly what we want to do there. Okay, so now here on the downside is you want to watch that 8 day. It's going to be very key. That's that 284.26. Now, on the bottom here is you got 285.12. Okay, so there's your gap, and then we want to look to the top of that candle at 278.56. That's your next support level. So if we lose that 8 day simple moving average, then we're going to be low. Is just look to the top of that candle. That would be the gap fill, and then we have that 21-day all the way down here, all at that 274.54 level. Now there is another gap right here. Okay, so you're looking at 264.28, and then we look at the fill at 261.68, and then we have your 258.31. That's your 50 days. So always look for these gaps. Because a lot of times what happens, it'll come right down to that gap and it'll hold it, and then it reverses and go right back up. Once it starts getting into the gap, it usually wants to fill that. And then I say once it does, we can come down to that 50-day. And then we have your big retest down here at that 244 level, which is basically just the bottom of that candle. And then we can come right over here to the bottom there. You're looking at that 239.71 level. And then we come all the way here at that 235.84. And then we have your 100-day, obviously, all the way back there. Now, there is another huge, huge gap, which is all the way down here at 224.79. And then we have 221.68. So if this stock does get hammered, okay, then we always want to look for right there, this gap in this field. But you got to lose the 21-day, your 50-day, your 100-day in order to do all that. So right now the odds aren't very good. So really what you have is we have a good uptrending situation. The key is going to be right here is get above that 292.01 on a closing basis, not just a pop and drop like we had here so far, a closing basis, then we can rally up higher. Now, we only said here, came right on down. I got a little bit overbought situation. Now you're sitting at 63. That's got plenty of room to run. This is like a sideways action. So right now here, we just have basically, again, sideways action. So really the key is just watch that 8-day and that 21-day and that gap in that field. And then we can come down to that 50-day. But upside here, I just think this has more upside. 292.01. That's what we're going to be watching. Okay, let's take a look here now at AMD. All right, here we have AMD. Now, this used to be just like a $20, $30 stock kind of situation. Then it started getting all the juice going on up here, okay? But I usually always trade Intel, but now I've been trading this here, and I think this is like where it's at right now, okay? So first of all, I want to do is I want to point out this gap right here, okay? It's 203.01. There's your gap, and then we look to the top of that candle at 170.68. There's your fill. Okay. Now you got to lose that price channel. You got to lose that 50-day and that 100-day in order to get all that. But again, always pay attention to that because a lot of times it can come right down to that gap. Okay, and then it can just rally right back up again. It doesn't have to go in a fill, but once it starts getting into that fill, then it usually wants a fill kind of situation. Okay. Now on the upside here, what we're watching is that 243.71. You can see how it went up higher than that into the 21-day, but so far it couldn't hold it. Okay, so 243.70. Your next level is going to be 247.88. Now, again, if we can rally above that, we'll come to the top there, 253. We'll come there. We'll go looking at that 259 level, and then we'll come up there at that 263.51, and then we have your retest at 267. We crack above that, you're going to venture to that 300. That's just pretty obvious, okay? Now, I say on the downside here, we want to watch the bottom of this candle here. That's that 235.08 level, and then we come right down to the bottom there. You're looking at 234.64. Then we have that retest down here at that 224 level, which is right there, okay? Now, again, if we lose that, we have also support right there going on at 213, but really the 50-day, very, very key, and then watch the bottom of that candle at that 203 level. Right now, we got a nice, good sideways action. Now, we got to an overbought situation, and we had negative divergence going here, okay? Negative divergence. See how we had higher high, but we had a high, we had a lower high. So now she's just coming off here. We just have a sideways action. The green is over your red. So that shows momentum there to the downside. But, this stock has had such a really, really good, really nice, good run up kind of a situation. So, again, just be very, very patient with this. If you're trading this, just watch that 8-day. That's going to be key, and that 21-day. Once we get above that, then we can do probably the retest at 267. We start losing all of this here. Just watch that key 224, and that will come right down to that 50-day and possibly down to that gap. Okay, let's take a look here now at NVIDIA. All right, here we have NVIDIA. Okay, so now remember the earnings are coming out here on the 19th, and we've got to see. So let's just take a look at the earnings. Okay, so there was an earnings situation, and then she came right on down. Now the earnings, okay, kind of rallied up here. Now the earnings here, kind of like a sideways action. So I'm not really expecting anything. Now remember, they have huge, huge numbers that they have to meet, and I think they can meet them. There's no question about that. But always look at this stock has had a huge, huge run so far this year. Got all the way down to 80. I believe it was 87. Let me just see what we got down to here. Yeah, 86.62. Okay, and then we ran all the way up to 212. Okay, so this thing had a huge, huge situation. Now you can see the double top there. See the 212, and then we retested it with 211. See that double top, and then she just came right on off here. And now we're kind of sinking a little bit below. But again, they have huge, huge numbers. But again, when you trade earnings, it's not the earnings or the guidance really that matters. It's the reaction to that. Okay, if they say, okay, boom, I'm going to go up and I'm going to take this stock right up here, then that's the reaction that we say that it's going to go higher. Okay, now to me, I'm a big fan of NVIDIA. I'm a long-term holder of this, and I also trade this. Very, very, very good stock. Okay, so here on the upside, what we're really watching is watching that 8-day. Okay, right there, you're looking at that 190.79. We have to get back above that because you can see how that 8 days bring the price down. Then your next level is going to be that 192.60 level. That's your 21-day. And then we'll come over to the top of this candle. You're looking at 195 level. We'll come up here. You're looking at that 199 level. Then we have this gap all the way up here at 197.93, and then we look to the bottom of that candle at that 205.56 level. So we have a gap, we have a fill, then we have your big retest up there at that 212 level, and then obviously if you break that, then you head towards that 225, and rally up to that 250 level very, very easily, kind of a situation. But again, remember, when you have a double top situation, it usually sells and it kind of consolidates for a little bit. Now on the downside here, we want to watch that 50-day. That's going to be key, 185.98, and then we want to watch that 100-day all the way down here, 179.28, and then we have that retest at 176.76 level, which is basically the bottom of that candle. Now we start losing that, we just bring these price channels here. Okay, right across, we're looking right there. You're looking at that 173 level. We bring this price channel across here. We're looking at that 168.41 level. And then we have a nice big candle all the way down here at that 164. Now, again, if you keep right on rolling here, all you have to do is just look to the tops of these here, okay? 160.98 level. We'll come up here. You're looking at 158.78. And then we're going to be heading right for that 200-day at 153. But again, in order to do that, you got to lose that 100-day, that price channel. And then we got to come all the way on venture all the way down. But again, NVIDIA is very, very strong stock. So right now, what you really want to watch is watch that 50-day. If we lose that, we could retest that 176.76 level. Upside, that 8-day is going to be everything. Okay, right there, 190 level, and then we have that 21-day at 192 level. Okay, now a lot of times how I traded this last time is I always buy this ahead of time. So I have a long-term position, I have a trading position, and what I did is I dumped it out here right after earnings, and after earnings it just popped right on up there. Boom! I got out of that trade. And then we just live to that, trade another day kind of situation. So, I have different kind of positions. So a lot of times you can have a long term. I'm way down here, okay, for the long term kind of a situation. But I say because I really like the stock there and everything. Everything's dependent on this. So, it's a great stock until it isn't. That's how I always look at things. You know what I'm saying? But you can also have a trading position, like a day trading here, or you can just have like a bit longer, like a week or two position kind of a situation. And then you do is you can just trade it into that earnings and just wait for the reaction to happen after hours. And then you can always dump it after hours. And you can always buy this back again. But right now, I think NVIDIA is a very, very good stock. Okay, so we have that 46 level. That's not overbought, oversold. The green is below red, shows that, momentum's there to the downside. So the key is getting back above that 8-day and that 21-day. Then we can maybe retest that 212 level. Now, today was a good day because remember now Netflix did their old split ski. Okay, so now Netflix is back in the normal range of 110. Isn't that nice? Nice. Okay, so that's also a very, very good one to trade. I say Google's ripping up. Tesla's always a back and forth. It's up there about 3% today. So again, there's a lot of really, really good stuff out there to trade. So don't get too excited here if you have a little sell-off today or back and forth. But until we get this tax selling here behind us, and then we get a Santa Claus rally, just trade the market. All right, that's what I got for you. I'll be back here after the old midday, after the pit close, and we'll take a look here at Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, silver, crude oil, natural gas, and we'll see how that's all going to be shaken out today. Remember, trade what's in front of you, not what you want.